Hey everyone, and welcome back to this brand new episode of Jerry's Guide to Better Than Wolves. Today we're gonna look a bit at Hardcore Hunger, one of the somewhat recent additions to Better Than Wolves. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and quite a bit has happened to the game in the meantime. So instead of making like these somewhat big videos with a lot of different aspects stuffed into it, I'm gonna make more specific videos for each of these separate elements that I've kind of separated the last three or four releases of patch notes into. So, without further ado and without any sort of weird annotation screen, I'm gonna go right to the fun stuff about Hardcore Hunger. As you might have noticed when looking at my hunger bar, I now have part of it with a white outline instead of the normal black one. This is due to the way that Flower Child has gotten rid of the saturation and instead replaced it with some a concept called fat. Those of you who knew a bit about Minecraft metagame before will know that saturation was kind of an invisible hunger bar which applied on top of your current one. So whenever you didn't have any saturation, your hunger bar would start shaking and you'd start losing hunger. Now instead of saturation we have fat. Basically what fat does is it acts as a kind of reserve food supply for you when you're getting really hungry. Unlike saturation, which drained before food even started, fat only drains after your hunger bar has actually reached below the fat level. So if I go in here and start working on these hand cranks quickly. As you can see now, my hunger and my fat is now the same level, so if I continue cranking a bit more, you can see that I've lost some hunger, but my fat is still there. However, if I crank now, I lose fat instead of hunger. So whenever the fat level is higher than the hunger level or food level, you start losing fat. The real benefit of fat is that it prevents you from dying when you're actually starving to death out in the middle of nowhere. So at the moment, I'm peckish, meaning that I should probably find something to eat pretty soon because I've lost the ability to sprint. I can't sprint anymore. If I continue to let my food go down, I'll start suffering even more like bad things to me. So if we test a bit more here. I'm now too exhausted from manual labor. And I'm starting to walk slower now as well. I can still jump. So if I keep jumping around for a bit, you can see the fat burning down slowly. Okay, I'm now famished, meaning that I can no longer jump either, so I can just move slowly, trying to crawl my way toward some kind of food source. So this is of course not a situation you want to be in for very long. So I'm gonna just eat some food here to get my hunger back up again. One of the main changes this Hardcore Hunger has for the player is that you need to, well, basically stop eating whenever you're missing a bit of hunger. Instead, wait until you're peckish and then start eating. This has to do with the way that you gain fat, because you only really gain fat whenever you're overeating. So as you can see, these steaks give me no fat. But since I'm only missing half a drumstick now, if I eat one more, as you can see, I gained half a bar of fat. Desserts in particular, stuff like cakes, pumpkin pies, cookies, are really good at giving fat. As you can see, I gained a ton of fat from eating a slice of cake there. Having a bit of fat is a very good thing because it prevents you from going down to becoming hungry and famished. But at the same time, if you have too much of it, you instead become obese. As you can see here. Now I'm not chubby, which means I'm walking slightly slower and I can't sprint. I am now obese, and now it's not hurting me, but it's very hard for me to actually walk right now. And I can't jump either. So I'm a really fat penguin here in a gimp suit. There is, as of this recording, not a visual indicator of how much fat you have, but it might come in a future update. In addition, hunger now goes down over time, even if you aren't doing anything. In addition to this, hunger now applies consistently across all difficulty levels. So even if you're playing on easy, you will starve to death eventually. Peaceful is still the exception here, because it still regenerates your hunger, so If it did drain, you wouldn't notice it anyway. The main reason the hardcore hunger change was introduced was to make food actually relevant in the game. At the moment in vanilla Minecraft, if you find a bit of food, you can basically survive for 2 to 3 days on just that bit of food, giving you plenty of time to either grow some wheat or find other sources of food before then. Come end game of Minecraft, if you have a stack of steaks, then you're more or less set forever, which is it kind of defeats the purpose of having food in the game if it just becomes a non-issue that quickly in the game. This is why in Better Than Wolves that the whole food system has now been overhauled, and despite it looking difficult and hard to manage, it's actually a lot of fun to play with. As part of the hardcore hunger makeover, Flowerchild has also introduced a concept called hardcore cooking, or playfully called that at least. What it does is that it expands upon the food crafting system to be much more than just get a stack of cooked steak and eat that. As you can see in this chest here, I have a number of different strange foods here, one of them being the tasty sandwich, which is basically just meat and bread combined. There's the cooked kebab, which is, I think, mushrooms, potatoes and mutton, or it might be carrots. One of them. It's carrots. And there's the hearty stew, which is now the new top tier food in the game. The addition of these new food items are of course to help combat the added difficulty of the hardcore hunger, but at the same time it also serves to give the player an incentive to actually use all the different farms that are in the game. Make sure to have a stock of every crop so you can make the hearty stew. If you don't have the hearty stew, you can make some pretty nice meals with just potatoes and carrots and some meat. Or you can make tasty sandwiches if you have wheat instead. All of this serves to make the food system a lot more interesting. One of the really important things about the complex recipes here is that they all produce more than one of the stuff you mix together. Which basically balances out to that if you combine the ingredients, you'll get a more filling meal, and you'll get more of the filling meals than if you ate the ingredients individually. In addition to the complex recipes, it's also now possible to eat certain raw ingredients. This includes brown mushrooms, red mushrooms, although that's not advisable, and pumpkin seeds for now. There's been talk about cocoa beans and possibly even sugarcane, but so far, as of this recording, that's not in the mod. Another thing in relation to the hardcore hunger change is that food now only stacks to 16. As you see here, I can't put these 2 stacks of steaks on top of each other. Food takes up more inventory space again to try and make it much more of an issue, especially late game when basically 1 stack of steak would feed you for all the imaginable playtime you would even spend. Alright, that's all for now. In the next episode I will return to the whole food aspect, however I will be focusing more on actually acquiring food and not just talking about the concepts behind it, or what it's used for. So, until next time, have a good one.